Hi everyone, I'm Pat Long. We'll open up the hangar in just a minute or so. This is the first of a planned series of what's in the hangar, and I'm looking forward to showing you what's inside mine. Let's go on inside as soon as we get the door open. Hello everyone, we're inside the hangar now at the McKinney National Airport, KTKI. And we're going to show you a little bit about the two airplanes here in the hangar. These are my third and fourth airplanes that I've built. The one behind me is a Spacewalker 2, Roman numeral 2. That's my newest airplane. It's about 35 hours in it. The airplane on the right is a HATS Classic. That's serial number 68, I believe. It's a very popular airplane, and we'll get into some details on both of them. Let's start by talking about the Spacewalker 2. Both airplanes actually have the same wingspan, 28 feet. The Spacewalker 2 is powered by a Continental O200 engine, and the propeller and engine combination is basically off a Cessna 150 with Aranca exhaust systems. No muffler, so it makes a little more noise. The airplane is intended to be a two-seat airplane, 1,400 pounds. It got a little heavy because I basically militarized a Spacewalker 2 by putting canopies on it from a T6. There's a machine gun barrel sticking out the front, full instrumentation as far as basic VFR flight. There's even a gun sight though in front of the front cockpit. The canopies slide, they're basically off a T6 as I said, except the fuselage is not long enough for the center section. As you can see from the side, there's a lot of metal on the fuselage. That's not what the original airplane was supposed to have. Originally, it's a short landing gear, fabric-covered airplane, open cockpit, tandem seating. It's obviously modified quite a bit, and I added quite a bit of weight to it, which is unfortunate, but if I were starting over again, I might build it as a single-seat airplane. I can take about 100 pounds comfortably in the front seat if I'm low on fuel. So it's a good airplane for children. For adults, it's kind of a sorry, I can't take you for a ride. Its landing gear is about 9 inches longer than the original landing gear. I wanted to give it about a 13-degree angle so that you can fly it fairly slowly to do three-point landings or get it into short fields. The basic construction of the Spacewalker, as well as the HATS Classic, is a steel tube fuselage and tail assembly and wood wings. The wing itself, in this particular airplane, has a very heavy main spar. The leading edge is covered with plywood. It's just 1/16 inch plywood back to the back side of the main spar, and then it's fabric over the rest of the wing. And of course, ailerons on the wing. The fuselage in the original Spacewalker is supposed to be fabric. I metallized it, both for durability, but also because I can take off all these panels for maintenance. These are the T6 canopies. Handle from a hardware store is very handy for getting in the front seat. To open the canopies, there's a little pin in the back. You just lift that pin, and then the canopy will slide forward. It'll lock in several different positions. This baggage compartment here, again, that was not on the original Spacewalker design, but I found having a baggage compartment be kind of handy. Again, this T6 lock, you pull that in and open it. The basic airplane is flown from the rear seat for center of gravity purposes. It kind of looks like you want to fly it from the front, but you can't do that. It would be way nose heavy if you did that. So basically, it's like I say, looks like a two-seat airplane, but for practical purposes, it's kind of a single-seater with a very low useful load in the front seat. The fuel tank and the fuselage is up here in front of the canopy. I also installed 2 fuel tanks in the wing root to get a couple extra gallons of fuel. All told, the plane will hold 24 gallons with a little O200 engine. That's good for about 3.5 hours with a 30-minute reserve. Okay, let's go back to the tail of the airplane. Okay, the paint scheme of the airplane, as you probably guessed, is to copy basically what was a pre-World War II trainer, including the way the tail is painted with the stripes representing the American flag. The lettering on the tail surfaces, along with the lettering on the wings and the fuselage, is a code that was included in a 1940 Army manual, how to identify when the component was built, what it was for, the part number, and when it was manufactured. So the coding is obviously all fictitious since this is not a World War II airplane, but the lettering all means something to someone that knows about World War II aircraft and the details of the markings. The tail is all steel tubing, as I mentioned before, with 4 brace wires on the top and 4 brace wires on the bottom to stiffen it. And a little trick on the Spacewalker is all the steel tubes that are used as ribs have balsa wood fairings on them to give it a slight aerodynamic shape rather than just a flat airfoil surface. Okay, well, that gives you a brief introduction to the Spacewalker 2, which I often refer to as a PT-28A because there never was one. So let's go over and look at the Hatch Classic now for a little bit. This biplane is a Hatch Classic. There are quite a few of these been completed. They're pretty much the same. This one has a 9-inch longer landing gear than it's supposed to have. Gives it a little higher angle. The fellow that ordered the fuselage welded up wanted to put a Rotec radial on it with a much longer propeller, but I decided to use a Lycoming 0320 from a Cessna 172. The construction of this plane is basically the same as the Spacewalker, steel tube fuselage and wood wings, steel tube tail section. The thing most people comment about on this airplane is the color blue. It's Bahama blue. It's a 1920s color that Charles Lindbergh had painted on the fuselage of his Kinner Bird biplane that he taught Ann Lindbergh to fly in. Now you see a lot of Mustangs and Fords on the road with the same color blue. I think the color's been rediscovered. It's basically a nice flying airplane. It flies very much like a Waco I used to have. It's like the other airplanes that I've had. It's tandem seating front and back. You fly this one from the rear cockpit also. It's a very solid airplane, very easy to fly as long as you don't mind not being able to see forward over the long nose. Okay, here's the side of the fuselage, obviously. I put an access panel here with the old-fashioned Zeus fittings so I have access to the battery. The panels can come off, but it's relatively difficult unless you want to just take off the ones around the cockpit. This airplane doesn't have good access for maintenance. I learned from it. The other airplane has a lot more access. Again, this landing gear is a little longer than it's supposed to be on a Hatch biplane, but it gives a little better deck angle for landing. It's real easy to do tail-low wheel landings and save wear and tear in the tail wheel. Let's go back around and we'll look at the cockpits a little bit. Well, thanks for visiting with us and looking at my airplanes. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you'll look forward to and enjoy the next episode of What's in the Hangar.